Well, welcome to the fourth of 7 videos looking at how to scope a traditional project. And what we're going to do during this video is look at the requirements breakdown structure. So we're going to try to determine what's the goal of the project and how to break that down into requirements and functions and activities and features. And it kind of helps get to why this particular phase is so sloppy and so intensive and incomplete sometimes because clients just don't know all the requirements associated with a particular project. All right, well, very good. Well, let's dig into it and look at why we would use a requirements breakdown structure. So you do this because it's very meaningful to the client. It allows them to kind of think about the project in a structured manner and to kind of determine, well, what are the features I want? Well, what are the activities, and processes for using this software? And what functions and sub-functions and requirements, and what's the overall goal of this particular project? So it's very client involved. You're not going to be able to get much further into the planning process, which is really the next process group, unless you have a requirements breakdown structure. That requirements breakdown structure is a subset of what you're going to need for a work breakdown structure. If you look at some of the characteristics or advantages of this, they go back again to what you just saw on the previous slide. Very deliverable based, very intuitive and meaningful to the client. Allows you to link back to your conditions of satisfaction, what you're looking for in a particular project. Does not need a trained facilitator to pull one of these off. It's a very structural approach to taking a big idea, a goal, and then breaking it down into smaller and smaller parts until you get all the way down to the individual features associated with it. And as you go through this process, what it allows you to do is allows you to flush out what's actually required, get a clear picture of what's required, and you're going to need that to figure out what's going to be the best fit project management lifecycle model. If there is lots of the requirement that are unclear to the customer, okay, and you can't get down to the individual features, then that's an indication that's probably not going to be a traditional project, and you're going to have to use one of the other 3 quadrants within your project management landscape to address this particular project. All right, well, enough talk about characteristics and advantages and that sort of stuff. Let's look at what one looks like. So here is a requirements breakdown structure in abstract. You've got one project goal, okay, one solution, and then you're going to have a number of requirements. Those requirements form the necessary and sufficient set to obtain the expected business value. They're tied back to your conditions of satisfaction as well. But you've got to have all of the requirements here. And again, if you don't, it's an indication that you're going to have to, you're not working with a traditional project, you're working with something else. And then you start breaking it down into functions and some functions and processes. What activities are the users going to have to use, and then what features are associated with this particular solution. All right, so again, it's just taking this one kind of goal and solution and working through all of the requirements and then breaking those things down into lower and lower steps. Here's a different view looking at that same thing with a little bit of color associated with it. As you're doing that interaction to determine what those requirements actually are, you got lots and lots of people out there that are providing input. So you're going to have business analysts working with the project manager to decompose the requirements as they come in. Business process engineers looking at the actual processes. Can I lean this? Can I lean Six Sigma this? Resource managers trying to figure out how much money this is going to cost to run, not only to build but to operate over the long term. You've got customers and users out there talking about their feature set, and sponsors who always have ideas. You have a line of business managers and functional managers and resource managers all submitting what they believe the needs to be. And as they do that, it's going to come into one coherent picture here, right? Well, maybe not. Maybe it won't be a coherent picture because you're going to have different people submit different requirements. And some of those requirements may, in fact, be competing. Okay? They may not be requirements where if you do one, you're not going to have to do another. And so all of that's got to kind of work your way out to make sure that you resolve whatever those differences are. And then you just have to accept that this is going to be a measure of completeness. It's probably not going to be complete. And again, it's just a question of degree of completeness as you go through. And I'm not trying to undermine how important this is, or that you should spend a lot of time actually doing a requirements breakdown structure. You should. But understand that as the project progresses, you're going to get questions that are going to lead to, oh, I didn't think about that, and yeah, we need to include that in the project. So you should engineer the project to be able to handle those types of changes. All right. So there's some judgment involved with this, and Resource Management, their entire books just on this topic. So I can't do justice to them in this short video. But again, just keep in mind, requirements breakdown structure, very good idea. You want to work through it, but you need to be realistic that you're not going to capture probably all of the requirements during this phase, and you need to engineer your process so that you can handle those changes as you go forward. Last bit on this, and we'll spend more time talking about this in the fifth video, but all of this goes into helping you figure out what quadrant in your project management landscape you are of the four, and then within that, what project management lifecycle model is going to be the appropriate model. And that's what we're going to talk about during the next video. Well, that brings us to the end. During this video, we've really looked at the requirements breakdown structure, what it looks like, some of the characteristics associated with it, some of the advantages of using an RBS, and then some of the disadvantages. And remember, you want to get this as complete as possible, but accept that you're probably going to miss some things as you're going along. Well, very good. Keep on studying. I'll see you in the next video when we come back and look at choosing the right project management life cycle to address a specific set of requirements.